The world stopped when I saw him across the crowded rooftop bar, his silhouette sharp against the Manhattan skyline. A glass of whiskey catching the city's neon glow. My heart, a traitor to my carefully guarded secret, thundered as if it could leap out and confess everything right then. Ethan Caldwell, a 28-year-old graphic designer with a penchant for hiding behind my sketches, had loved Lucas Harper, the brilliant architect, for 3 years in agonizing silence. It wasn't just his designs, those sleek, impossible buildings that seemed to defy gravity, that drew me in. It was the way his blue eyes crinkled when he laughed, the way he tilted his head when puzzling over a blueprint, the way he made everyone around him feel like they mattered. I'd spent countless nights at our mutual friend Mia's studio, watching him sketch, my own pencil frozen over my pad as I memorized the curve of his jaw instead of drawing. But tonight, at this rooftop party celebrating Harper Design's latest triumph, I decided I would tell him. No more cowardice. No more excuses. The bar buzzed with architects, investors, and artists, all clinking glasses under string lights that swayed in the late summer breeze. I adjusted my tie, smoothed my dark hair, and took a breath so deep it felt like I was stealing oxygen from the stars. Lucas stood by the railing, alone for once, his white button-down open at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms tanned from weekends at his family's lake house. I clutched my drink, the ice clinking like my nerves, and crossed the rooftop. "Lucas," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He turned, and those eyes locked onto mine, a smile tugging at his lips. "Ethan, you made it," he said, his voice warm, like he'd been waiting for me. My resolve wavered, but I pushed forward. "I need to tell you something. It's important." His brow furrowed, but he nodded, stepping closer. The city's hum faded, leaving just us, the skyline, and the weight of my words. "I've been in love with you for years," I blurted, my face burning. "I know it's sudden, but I can't keep it in anymore. You're everything I've ever wanted." Silence. His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought I saw something: recognition, maybe, or surprise. Then he laughed, a short, nervous sound, and ran a hand through his sandy hair. "Ethan, wow. I had no idea." He paused, glancing away, then back at me. "I'm flattered. Really. But I'm not sure I'm who you think I am." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, then leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "I'm not Lucas. I'm Liam, his twin brother." The world tilted. Twin brother. Lucas had never mentioned a twin. My confession, meant for the man I'd loved in secret, had just spilled out to a stranger wearing his face. I stepped back, my drink nearly slipping from my hand. "You're what?" I stammered. Liam's smile was softer, almost apologetic. "Identical twin. I'm visiting from Chicago. Lucas is over there," he said, nodding toward the bar where, sure enough, another look has me, Lucas stood, laughing with Mia. Same sandy hair, same sharp jaw, same everything. My heart pounded, humiliation and confusion crashing over me like a tidal wave. "I'm so sorry," I muttered, turning to flee. But Liam grabbed my arm. "Wait, Ethan. Don't go." His grip was firm but gentle, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that felt familiar. "You meant that, didn't you? What you said?" I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight. Liam's expression softened further, and he let go of my arm, stepping back. "Lucas is lucky," he said quietly. "But maybe you should talk to him anyway." I stumbled through the crowd, my mind a blur. Lucas, the real Lucas, caught my eye as I approached, his smile as disarming as ever. "Ethan, you look like you've seen a ghost," he teased, handing me a fresh drink. I forced a laugh, but my confession still burned in my chest, now tangled with the surreal encounter with Liam. How could I tell Lucas now, knowing his twin had heard it first? And why did Liam's words Lucas's lucky echo in my mind, stirring something I couldn't name? The night stretched on, and I stayed close to Mia, avoiding both Lucas and Liam. But every glance at Lucas reignited my longing, and every glimpse of Liam sparked a strange, unsettling curiosity. They were identical, yet something in Liam's gaze felt different, less guarded, more raw. I didn't know it then, but that moment on the rooftop was the spark that would ignite a firestorm of secrets, love, and heartbreak. By midnight, the party was winding down, but my turmoil was just beginning. Lucas found me by the elevators, his hand brushing my shoulder. "You okay? Man, you've been weird all night." His concern was genuine, and it took everything in me not to blurt out the truth again. Instead, I mumbled something about being tired and fled to the street below, the city's lights blurring through unshed tears. The next morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Liam. Can we talk?" My heart stuttered. Why was he reaching out? And why did the thought of seeing him again make my pulse race in a way that felt dangerously close to hope? I stared at Liam's text, my coffee growing cold on the kitchen counter of my Brooklyn apartment. The words "can we talk" glowed on my phone, taunting me with possibilities I wasn't ready to face. I'd spent the night tossing in bed, replaying my confession to Liam. The way his eyes had held mine with something I couldn't decipher: pity, curiosity, or something deeper. I typed a reply, then deleted it. What could he want? To laugh off my mistake? To warn me away from his brother? Or me, traitorous heart whisper, did he feel something too? I shook my head, shoving the thought away. I loved Lucas. Lucas, with his quiet confidence and sketches that made my artist's heart ache. Not Liam, a stranger I'd known for 5 minutes. But I couldn't ignore him. By noon, I'd agreed to meet Liam at a small cafe in Greenwich Village, a neutral spot far from Lucas's world of steel and glass. The cafe was cozy, with mismatched chairs and the scent of fresh-baked scones. Liam was already there, sitting by the window, his resemblance to Lucas so uncanny it stole my breath. Same sandy hair, same sharp cheekbones, same broad shoulders in a fitted gray sweater. But his posture was looser, his smile less polished, like he carried a weight Lucas didn't. "Ethan," he said, standing as I approached, his voice softer than Lucas's, with a slight Midwestern drawl. "Thanks for coming." I slid into the chair across from him, my hands fidgeting with a sugar packet. "What's this about?" I asked, sharper than I meant. Humiliation from last night still stung, and I braced for mockery. Liam leaned forward, his blue eyes steady. "I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About Lucas." He paused, choosing his words. "I've never seen someone so raw. You really love him, don't you?" I swallowed, nodding. "Yeah, I do." Saying it aloud again felt like peeling back a wound. But Liam's gaze wasn't judgmental. It was searching, almost tender. He leaned back, exhaling. "Lucas doesn't know how lucky he is. Most people don't wear their heart like that." His fingers traced the rim of his coffee mug, and I noticed a faint scar on his knuckles, a detail Lucas didn't have. "I wanted to make sure you're okay, and to apologize for last night. I didn't mean to throw you off." "You didn't." I lied, my voice tight. "It was my mistake." But the way he looked at me, like he saw every crack in my armor, made me wonder if he knew how much his presence unsettled me. We talked for an hour, the conversation veering from my art to his work as a freelance photographer in Chicago. He was different from Lucas, driven, more introspective. He spoke of capturing moments, not buildings, of chasing light and truth through a lens. I found myself laughing at his stories, relaxing in a way I never did around Lucas, who always felt just out of reach. As we left the cafe, Liam touched my arm. A brief, Electric contact. Ethan, if you ever need to talk about Lucas, or anything, I am here. His smile was small, almost shy, and it lingered in my mind as I walked home. The autumn leaves crunching underfoot. Days passed, and I avoided Lucas, too raw to face him. But Liam kept texting small things, like a photo of a street mural or a joke about New York traffic. Each message chipped away at my defenses, and I hated myself for it. I loved Lucas. So why did Liam's texts make my heart skip? Then came Mia's gallery opening, a glittering event in Chelsea where Lucas would be. I couldn't skip it. Mia was my best friend, but dread coiled in my gut. When I arrived, Lucas was there, charming a crowd with his easy grin. My chest ached, but before I could approach, Liam appeared at my side, holding 2 glasses of wine. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing me one. His presence was a lifeline, but it also confused me. Why was he here? Why did he keep showing up? The night blurred. Too much wine, too many stolen glances at Lucas. Then, in a quiet corner of the gallery, Lucas found me. "Ethan, we need to talk," he said, his voice low, urgent. My heart raced. Had Liam told him? Before I could respond, Lucas leaned closer, his breath warm. "I've been thinking about you. A lot." My world spun. Lucas, the man I'd loved for years, was looking at me like I was more than a friend. But as his hand brushed mine, I caught Liam watching us from across the room, his expression unreadable. And in that moment, I realized I was standing on the edge of something dangerous, a love I dreamed of, and a connection I hadn't expected, threatening to pull me apart. Lucas's hand lingered on mine, his touch sending sparks through me. But Liam's gaze from across the gallery burned hotter. I stood frozen, caught between the man I'd loved for years and the man whose quiet presence had begun to unravel me. The air in Mia's gallery felt too thick, the chatter and clinking glasses fading as my heart pounded out a warning. "Choose. Ethan. Choose now." I pulled my hand from Lucas's, muttering an excuse about needing air. Outside, the Chelsea night was crisp, the city's pulse a distant hum. I leaned against the brick wall, my breath visible in the cool air, trying to untangle the mess in my chest. Lucas's words, "I'd been thinking about you," were everything I'd wanted. But Liam's face kept intruding, his soft smile and scarred knuckles haunting me. My phone buzzed. Another text from Liam. "You okay? Saw you bolt." I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Before I could type, Lucas stepped outside, his coat slung over one shoulder. "Ethan, what's going on?" he asked, his voice gentle but edged with worry. "You've been dodging me all week." I opened my mouth, but the truth-me confession to Liam, my growing confusion stuck in my throat. Instead, I said, "It's nothing. Just work stress." Lucas didn't buy it. His eyes narrowed, searching mine. "Talk to me," he urged, stepping closer. "You're not yourself." The door swung open again, and Liam appeared, his expression shifting from concern to something guarded when he saw Lucas. "Everything all right?" he asked, his voice neutral, but his eyes locked on me. The tension between the brothers was palpable, a silent current I didn't understand. "Yeah," Lucas said, his tone clipped. "Just catching up with Ethan." Liam nodded, but his gaze lingered on me, and I felt it like a physical touch. "I'll leave you to it," he said, turning back inside, but not before his hand brushed Minea fleeting, deliberate contact that made my breath catch. Lucas didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't show it. "Ethan," he said, his voice softer now. "I meant what I said in there. I've been thinking about you, not just as a friend." My heart stopped. This was the moment I dreamed of, but the words I'd rehearsed for years wouldn't come. Instead, I saw Liam's face, his quiet intensity, and the guilt twisted sharper. I need time," I stammered, hating myself for it. Lucas's face fell, but he nodded, his hand squeezing my shoulder. Take all the time you need, he said, and walked back inside, leaving me alone with the city's noise and my own chaos. The next week was torture. Lucas gave me space, but his absence only amplified my confusion. Liam, meanwhile, kept texting invitations to coffee, a museum visit, a walk in Central Park. Each one felt like a betrayal of Lucas. Yet I couldn't stop saying yes. Liam was easy to talk to, his laughter a balm to my frayed nerves. But every shared moment deepened my guilt. I was falling for him, and it felt like a theft from the love I'd sworn to Lucas. One evening, at a quiet diner in the East Village, Liam finally broached the subject. "Ethan," he said, his fork paused over a half-eaten slice of pie. "What's going on with you and Lucas?" His tone was gentle, but his eyes held a storm. I froze, the diner's neon buzz filling the silence. "I saw how he looked at you at the gallery, and how you looked at him." I wanted to lie, to say it was nothing, but Liam's gaze stripped me bare. "I love him," I admitted, my voice cracking. "But then I met you, and I don't know what I feel anymore." The confession hung between us, raw and dangerous. Liam's jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he'd walk away. Instead, he reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "I'm not him, Ethan," he said quietly, "but I'm not going anywhere either." His thumb brushed my knuckles, and I felt the scar again, grounding me in the reality of him separate from Lucas, yet tied to him in ways I couldn't untangle. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling of my apartment. Lucas was the dream I'd chased, but Liam was the reality I hadn't expected. And somewhere in the space between them, I was losing myself. The truth was a blade, cutting deeper with every choice I didn't make. Lucas's confession at the gallery had cracked open the door to everything I'd ever wanted. But Liam's touch, his quiet understanding, had wedged it wider, letting in a light I didn't know I needed. By the time I agreed to join them both at their family's lake house upstate, I was drowning in my own indecision. The drive to the Adirondacks was a study in contrasts. Lucas, behind the wheel of his sleek black SUV, filled the silence with stories of his latest projects, his passion for architecture infectious. Liam, in the back seat, was quieter, his camera resting on his lap as he stole glances at me in the side mirror. I sat shotgun, my sketchbook untouched, my mind a battlefield where love for Lucas clashed with the pull of Liam. The lake house was a modernist marvel Lucas's design, all clean lines and glass walls that framed the shimmering water. As we unpacked, the brothers' dynamic came into focus. Lucas was the leader, confident and commanding, while Liam was the observer, his humor dry but warm. Yet there was an edge between them, a tension that surfaced in small ways, a sharp glance, a curt reply. I wondered what history lay buried there. That night, as the sun sank into the lake, I found Lucas on the dock, his bare feet dangling in the water. "You've been quiet," he said, not looking at me. "Is it me?" His vulnerability caught me off guard, so different from his usual certainty. "No," I said, sitting beside him. "It's me. I'm figuring things out." The water lapped gently, and I wanted to tell him everything, me confession to Liam, my growing feelings, but fear held me back. Instead, I asked, "Why didn't you ever mention you had a twin?" Lucas's laugh was bitter. "Liam and I were complicated. He left for Chicago years ago. After he stopped, his jaw tight. Let's just say we don't always see eye to eye." I waited, but he didn't elaborate, and the silence grew heavy. Later, as the stars emerged, Liam found me by the fire pit, a blanket draped over his shoulders. "You and Lucas looked cozy," he said, his tone light but his eyes searching. I flinched, guilt twisting in my gut. "We were just talking," I said, too quickly. Liam sat beside me, the fire casting shadows on his face. "Ethan, I need to be honest," he said, his voice low. I'm falling for you. And I know you love Lucas. But I can't pretend I don't feel this. He gestured between us, his hand trembling slightly. My breath caught, and before I could stop myself, I leaned in, my lips meeting his. The kiss was electric, a collision of want and guilt that left me breathless. But as we pulled apart, Lucas's silhouette appeared in the doorway, his face unreadable in the firelight. "Ethan," he said, his voice cold. "We need to talk. Now." The confrontation that followed was a storm. Lucas's anger was quiet but searing, his words cutting deep. "You think you can just play us both?" he demanded, his eyes flashing. Liam stood silent, his guilt mirroring mine. I tried to explain my love for Lucas, my confusion with Liam, but the words tangled, and Lucas stormed off into the night. Liam stayed, his hand finding mine. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to make this worse." But his touch, warm and steady, only deepened my turmoil. I loved Lucas, but Liam was here, real and flawed and impossibly present. The next morning, Lucas was gone, his car missing from the driveway. Liam drove me back to the city, the silence between us heavy with unspoken questions. I knew I had to choose, but the cost of that choice felt like it would break me. Back in Brooklyn, the city's noise couldn't drown out the ache in my chest. Lucas hadn't answered my calls or texts, and Liam's messages, though kind, only deepened my confusion. I'd hurt them both, and the weight of it crushed me. But more than that, I was angry at myself for my indecision, at the universe for putting me between two men who, in their own ways, had claimed pieces of my heart. I buried myself in work, sketching until my fingers cramped. But every line reminded me of Lucas's blueprints, every shadow of Liam's photographs. Mia, sensing my turmoil, dragged me to her studio one evening, her paint-splattered hands firm on my shoulders. "Ethan, you can't keep running," she said. "You need to face this. Both of them." She was right. I called Lucas first, leaving a voicemail that poured out my heart-me love for him, my regret for the lake house, my need to make things right. Then I texted Liam, asking to meet at the lakeside where this had all begun. I needed clarity, and I needed it away from the city's chaos. Liam arrived at the lake at dusk, his camera slung over his shoulder, his expression guarded but soft. "You look like you haven't slept in days," he said, sitting beside me on the grass. I laughed, a hollow sound. "I haven't. I've been tearing myself apart over you and Lucas." He nodded, his eyes on the water. I talked to him. He said finally, "He's hurt, Ethan. But he loves you. Always has." My heart twisted. "Why didn't he tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. Liam sighed, his scar catching the fading light. "We've got history. I came out years ago, and it drove a wedge between us. Lucas wasn't ready to face his own feelings. Not then. Maybe not even now." His words hit like a revelation. Lucas, grappling with his own identity, had been as afraid as I was. I reached for Liam's hand, needing an anchor. "And you?" I asked. "What do you want?" He turned to me, his eyes raw. "You," he said simply. "But I won't fight my brother for you. You have to choose." The choice came down to a single moment, standing on that lakeside as the sun dipped below the horizon. I loved Lucas, the dream I'd built in my head. But Liam was the reality flawed, open. And here, I kissed him again, softer this time, a promise to myself as much as to him. "I choose you," I whispered, and the weight lifted, even as it broke my heart. Lucas returned to the city a week later, and we met at Mia's studio. His eyes were tired, but he listened as I explained me love for him, my choice of Liam, my hope we could still be friends. He nodded, his smile sad but genuine. "I want you to be happy, Ethan," he said. "And if that's with Liam, I'll figure it out." The months that followed were a slow healing. Liam and I built something real, grounded in honesty and quiet moments, coffee dates, late night talks, his camera capturing us in ways I'd never seen myself. Lucas and I found a new rhythm. Our friendship bruised but enduring. And through it all, I learned that love wasn't about perfection or dream sit, was about choosing. Every day, to show up for someone, even when it hurt. As I stood with Liam by that same lake a year later, his hand in mine, I realized the twist of fate that had brought us together wasn't a mistake. It was a gift, a chance to find a love that was messy, human, and true.